Welcome to the You on the Camino de Santiago podcast, Season 5. This podcast is for and about people getting ready for their first ever pilgrimage on the Camino de Santiago in Spain, France, and Portugal. With your host, Camino guide and longtime pilgrim, Nancy Reynolds of the Camino Experience. Here back again for the for real final episode of Season 5 of the podcast, and with it, the final step of my year-end practice. I hope you've enjoyed this season of the podcast as much as I've enjoyed producing it. I'm so inspired by my guests this season, by what they accomplished on their pilgrimages on the Camino, and not just by the fact that they walked however many kilometers they walked, but by the challenges they overcame and how bravely they navigated the inner journey of pilgrimage. I want to say thank you to all my guests for sharing their stories with me and with the pilgrim community. And I want to say thank you to all my listeners for tuning in and following along week after week. You are why I do this. Specifically, the idea of you on your chosen Camino route. You making this dream a reality. You boldly and courageously stepping out into the world and becoming who you are meant to be. I hope we'll be able to continue this journey together in 2025. If you are new to the podcast and if you are considering walking the Camino de Santiago, I want to invite you to go back to Season 1 of the podcast and listen from the start. I've got answers to all your first-time pilgrim questions and tons of tips for how to make this a trip of a lifetime. And if you want additional support as you plan and prepare for your Camino walk, please swing by my website, thecaminoexperience.com, to learn how I help first-time pilgrims go from the dream of walking the Camino to their first steps from Saint-Jean-Pied-du-Port on the Camino Frances route. Okay, shall we move on to the final step of our year-end practice? The only thing we have left is my favorite New Year's tradition. This is the one I've been doing since 1976, long before I started setting goals and intentions for the new year, long before I even knew what that meant, because in 1976, I was 11 years old. My best friend was Kristi, who lived next door and who had all kinds of fun and creative ideas. Usually, they involved getting into a little mischief, and then, don't you know, making it look like it was my idea rather than hers. The New Year's idea, though, was a good one and completely trouble-free, although it did involve eating an ill-advised amount of Reese's peanut butter cups as we pushed ourselves to stay awake until midnight. Here was Kristi's idea. Let's write a letter to our future selves and seal them up before midnight on New Year's Eve. Then we would hide them someplace good and open them up on January 1st, 1 year and 1 day from when we sealed them. Imagine what fun it would be to read those letters in a year. I still have that first letter somewhere in a keepsakes box in my storage unit. And every time I move, I find it, and I get a good giggle and a reminder of what a dorky kid I was. But then, weren't we all? No? Oh, okay. Well, anyway. Also in that keepsake box are many of the other letters I've written to myself over the past, 47 years? They are a history of my dreams and wishes and struggles. Cherished. So this is the final step in our year-end practice, to write a letter to yourself that you will open in 1 year and a day from the final day of 2024. And I hope you'll keep with this practice year after year and create your own stack of memory letters. Here are the rules. Simple. The envelope has to be sealed before midnight on December 31st. Address the envelope to yourself and write the words, "Do not open until 2026. Put the envelope someplace where you are sure to find it as 2025 comes to a close. You may even want to put a notice on your phone or calendar to remind yourself where you put the envelope. Then, on January 1st, 2026, you open your envelope and see what your 2024 self had on its mind. It seems so surreal, doesn't it, to think about 2026 when we're not even in 2025 yet. For me, that's part of the magic, to take a moment now to recognize that this year is only a year. It's only one part in the larger experience of my life, and to notice that a lot or nothing can happen in a year, and it's mostly up to me which it is. You may be wondering, what do I put in my letter to my 2026 self? There are any number of ways you could do this. You could focus on the year that's finishing and write about how it went, what happened, what you are proud of, who you became, and what of that you will bring into the new year, sort of like a time capsule to remind your 2026 self how interesting and amazing 2024 was. Or if 2024 wasn't your best year ever, you could write about what you're leaving behind as you cross into the new year, lessons learned and how you will apply them, regrets you don't intend to repeat. Another way to do this is to focus on 2025 and what you are hoping for, planning for, dreaming of. You could write about your goals and how you plan to use your superpowers to achieve them. If you will be walking the Camino in 2025, you could write about that, about why you are taking on this pilgrimage, your expectations, what you hope to take away from the experience, or who you hope to encounter on the way, whether that is a new and deeper version of yourself or pilgrims from around the world. And of course, you could write about any of your goals for 2025. Perhaps instead of writing about the old or the new, you may want to include a poem, either an original verse or a favorite written by someone else, or your favorite quote, and then write about what it means to you and why it is significant. Another approach would be to imagine yourself on January 1st, 2026, having had your incredible best year yet. What would you like to say to that version of yourself? Or maybe you want to write about your hopes for your family or your community or the world. If you have children, you could write a letter to them, sharing your dreams for the year and how you appreciate their support. Are you starting to get the idea? You can write about anything. You can include anything, any story or thought or intention, anything in your letter to yourself. So don't rush this. Take your time and think about what you might like to read on the first day of 2026. And then go buy yourself a card or find a favorite box of stationery, or just grab a piece of paper and an envelope and start writing. I like to do this in a favorite place or a special upscale environment. My ideal scenario for my year-end letter writing is to go to a nice hotel, get a table in the bar area or find a spot on a comfortable couch in the salon, and sit for a bit and write. I will spring for a fancy cocktail or a cup of tea served in beautiful china and allow the setting to symbolically set the stage for the next year. I've also written my letter in a beautiful outdoor setting like a park or on a bench if I'm in the right climate for New Year's. And I have been known to talk to strangers about what I'm doing and invite them to join me in writing their own letter to wrap up the current year and welcome in the next. Make this ritual your own. Just be sure to seal that envelope before midnight on the 31st. Now, if you remember, I previously said that you can follow my year-end practice at any time throughout the year to mark a special date or holiday, or even something significant like starting a business or, yes, walking the Camino. If you are planning to walk the Camino in 2025, you may want to write a letter to your future pilgrim self, the one who will be walking into Santiago de Compostela at the end of the pilgrimage. Write that letter before you leave home, and then read it either when you reach Santiago or when you return back home. It's a wonderful way to mark the significance of the journey, to capture your hopes, and to create a record of who you were before the walk. If you have made it this far in this year-end process, if you are listening to this podcast, number 4 in this series, I want to congratulate you on your commitment to making the year 2025 your best year yet. And I want to thank you for joining me on this journey. I would love to hear from you about how this has been for you, and more so, what you have planned for the next year. Will you be walking the Camino? Do you have another big goal you'll be going after? I would love to hear about it. Would you take a minute to send me an email? My email address is nancy@thecaminoexperience.com. Let me know what you're up to, and know that I will be cheering you on as you take on 2025 and all it has for you. Thank you for sharing this year with me. It has been quite a ride. I wish you a beautiful new year, filled with more of what you want, less of what you don't want, and all the good you can take in. And if a pilgrimage on the Camino de Santiago is in the cards for you, I wish you the best and most biggest buen camino ever. I'll catch you in season 6 of the podcast. Blessings, dear pilgrim. You are on your way.